everybody, today I want to do a Lorac Mega Pro Palette 4 eyeshadow tutorial to get this look right here. And I think it's going to be really fun, get a use of a lot of the really beautiful shades here in this palette. We're going to be focusing on some of the greens, some of the pinks, some of the browns, of course. There's so many gorgeous browns in this palette that are so unique. I'm also going to walk you through the liner and the lashes and everything that go along with this eye look to really take it up to the next level. And if you want your eyeballs to look like this, just keep watching. So I'm going to start out with the e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer in the shade White. I use this Emax concealer brush to just get that all over eye. This one is not as creamy as the rose shade of the same product. It can be a little stiff and patchy and tricky to work with, but I still prefer it to the NYX Milk Pencil because it is less waxy and I think it tends to crease a lot less than the NYX Milk Pencil does. And the reason I'm using a white base instead of a nude one, which is what I would usually use for a more everyday look, I use this white one because a lot of the shades in this palette, especially the ones we're going to be using today, are pastels and they're going to be more vibrant over a white base. So next I'm just going to blend out the edges here with my finger to avoid any harsh lines, like so. And oh, I forgot, I like to drag the white into the inner corner as well and around just a little bit, and that'll help the inner corner highlight to pop, which in my opinion is one of the most important parts of any eye look. Alright, so starting with this medium fluffy brush, it's a little bit dirty. This medium fluffy brush from Lavender, I think it is. It's an Amazon company. I would have talked about it at the beginning of the video. This is the fluffy white one. I'm going to go into the shade Flamingo. Of course, with this palette, you always want to tap off the excess because it is very powdery. You're going to want to make sure you don't do your eye makeup after your foundation because there will be fallout, but it is all worth it. And then I'm going to start near the tail of my eyebrow and start sketching out that crease in this light pink shade. And you're going to want to do this in whatever shape you want to make the look to flatter your eye shape. So for me, going back in and building up this shade, of course, because it does take a couple layers. For me, the shape is, I like to have it curve in towards the inner corner on the inside and then flatten out and move towards the tail of the eyebrow at the end. This is a flattering eyeshadow shape for me. But there are lots of different ways you can go for more of an overall arched shape. You could try to wing out the shadow at the end. This for me is the perfect balance of dramatic without being too dramatic. So now we have a bit of a pink, a little faint pink crease defined here. And then I'm going to take the fluffiest brush of all from that Amazon Lamora set, and I'm going to use this one in the shade Cool Taupe to blend out that pink a little bit and avoid harsh lines. For me, Cool Taupe is the perfect shade in this palette to do blending with. And if you've seen Jaclyn Hill's really famous video about how to blend your eyeshadow, she talks about using a flesh tone shade to finish up all your blending with a really fluffy brush. So that's who I learned that from. Next, I'm going to deepen up the crease with this brush here. Now, I used to have an e.l.f. brush, an e.l.f. eyeshadow brush that was like a domed brush. I don't have it anymore, it broke, so I'm going to be using, you could use this end, but it's a little bit too densely packed for me. I think it's going to make a line that's too harsh, so I'm going to use the tip of this side of the brush. This came with the Naked Smoky palette. But you can find a brush, just anything that's going to create a firmer line than this brush, which we just used for the pink, will be great, but not so dense that it's going to create a really harsh line like a pencil brush or like something this densely packed. So you may have to experiment and find what works for you. Either way, I'm going to move into Oat here. Just going to get the tip of the brush covered in that and tap it off, and then start just at the very bottom of where we put the pink. Just start deepening that out a little bit. This is like kind of an olivey very cool tone brown. It's a great shade. Oh, this palette is amazing. So I'm gonna go back in one more time and just deepen that up again. There we go. And then I'm gonna layer my way out to do all the blending because I don't want any harsh lines. So I'm gonna go with this brush again, put it into Flamingo, and blend that out. And the reason we didn't put down a lot of Flamingo at the beginning is because we're gonna be going over this crease area with it several times. And then just to finish that up, I'm gonna take this brush again with Cool Taupe and blend everything out, holding the brush far away from the bristles here at the end to keep a very light hand, taking our time with the blending. Alright, next it's time to start with the lid. People have different ways they like to go about this. Today I started with the darker outer crease first and worked my way inward instead of starting in the inside and working my way outward. And that's because most of the blending happens on the outer crease, so it just gets easier with time if you start on that side. So I'm going to use this EcoTools double-ended eyeshadow brush. There's 2 of these in the kit, and I'm going to use the larger packing brush here, using of course my Verimona color switch to avoid contaminating these brushes with other colors and muddying up the look. So now I'm just going to tap this into the shade Lagoon, just a little bit, tap off the excess, and I'm going to start right at the outer edge of the eye and start slowly just packing that color up here. And I have to raise my eyebrows and close my eye because the way my eye is, there are lots of folds that can cause the line to become kind of wavy and wiggly instead of clean and straight. And these eyeshadows blend really nicely, so you can make a mistake without it being the end of the world. But they're also very pigmented, so it'll start to get muddy if you make too many mistakes. Alright, I'm going to build this up about halfway across the lid, maybe a little less than halfway. This is a personal preference thing. I think this is about far enough. To me, this looks about halfway. And then just taking that Lagoon shade, I'm going to tap just ever so slightly above the crease, just a little bit farther than I took it into the lid. And this shape is just to contour the eye. That's what that's going to do. So then we're going back in with Flamingo. It's going to blend that out. Gently, 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 smoothly. In the crease first. Not looking so bad. And then out here on the outer edge as well, we're going to put some Flamingo, which we haven't put it out on this side quite yet. Just making sure that there's no overly harsh lines. You know, there are going to be some lines. You can see clearly where the Lagoon shade ends, but it's less harsh than it was at first. So I'm liking the way that this is looking a lot. And then of course, we're going to go in with Cool Taupe and just fluff out that Flamingo that we just added. Perfect. Now I'm going to take the other EcoTools double-ended eyeshadow brush. This one has a smaller packing brush on one end and this kind of fluffy brush on the other end. And I'm going to use this fluffy brush here. This is a great happy medium between a precise brush and it blends as it goes as well. So I'm going to go into the shade Cedar. This is what I'm going to use to really deepen up the very outer V. So I'm just going to go up here in the crease, halfway across. Not as far as we went with the the Lagoon in the crease. So you want to make sure not to arch too far downwards or else that's going to create a drooping eye effect. So I'm trying to aim towards the tail of my eyebrow as I'm going out with this. And just sketching out the shape with a light hand because these shades are very pigmented. You know, it's better to start with less and build it up. And then taking that Cedar shade, I'm just going to drag that down the outer edge of the lid. You can see we've created a nice shape here. And then I'm just going to take it and go one more brush width inwards. So you can see about half, a little less than half of the Lagoon color has got this Cedar over top of it. And now you can guess what's happening next. I'm going to take Flamingo and I'm going to blend that cedar into the lagoon and out into the flamingo area. And this is where, as you can see, all these blending steps cause the look to become a little bit more blown out with every single step. So that's why I don't want to use too much flamingo at the beginning. And then I'm going to go on this side. And what has happened here is it looks like a little bit of the corner of that cedar shade has been lost. We almost have a rounded shape out here. The flamingo is sharp, but the cedar is almost rounded like this, if you can see that. And that happens a lot. I don't know if it's just the way that I blend, but I'm just going to take cedar and just ever so lightly, just gently restore that point to keep the shape consistent. There we go. I think that looks quite nice. And then I'm going to take the cool taupe shade, blend everything out lightly. I'm not going to go back in with flamingo because I don't want to blend too much and lose that point again. So we are drawing to a close of this look, for the lid at least, before I do my foundation, everything I need to do. So I'm going to take the other end of this particular EcoTools eyeshadow blending brush, use the smaller packing brush, going into probably my favorite shade in this palette, which is Moss. We are just going to start sweeping this shade along the inner lid. And we're going to sweep it over, up into, not quite up into the crease, right where your actual crease is where I want it to end. I want it to go under where we drew Lagoon, for example, under Flamingo. Unlike Lagoon, we're not going to pull this shade back up into the crease. And this is for an eye contouring effect that's going to be flattering. So we're pulling this into the middle, into Lagoon a little bit. And now, for the final step, just to make that blending really seamless, I'm going to take this larger packing brush that we used for Lagoon earlier. I'm going to tap it back into Lagoon just so gently. Tap off the excess a lot, we don't need a ton. And then right in the center of the lid, I'm just going to so gently, just going to start making a back and forth motion up the lid and down the lid and up. Oop. And that might have been a little more effective than I had hoped. It looks like we've lost a little bit more of Moss than I intended, so I'm just going to start putting Moss back over top. And at worst case scenario, things get really muddy, you can start over. You can put your primer over certain areas if you just want to start in certain areas, but I think we have a pretty good situation here. I think we've gotten what we want to get out of the lid. Something I am noticing, this sometimes happens, is that on one eye I have the shadow coming up a little higher, and on this eye it's lower and it's kind of hidden underneath my brow bone. So what I'm going to do to remedy that is actually pretty simple. I'm just going to bring the shade Cedar up a little bit higher than I originally did, like this, almost up where I was blending Flamingo. Okay? And then it looks like I have got too much, too high maybe, we'll see. I'm going to go in with Flamingo next, and that should blend out some of the harshness. These eyeshadows are very, very forgiving. It's the Lorac formula, is to be very forgiving. Yes, so that's looking much more even in my opinion now. And then just so gently with the cool taupe, one more time, just a light sweep to make sure it's blended out. And now I have a look that to me is sufficiently symmetrical and is exactly how I want it to look. So then for the waterline, I want to do something a little special. I think that this look, since it's a little smoky, would be balanced by something very light in the waterline. So I'm going to use the NYX Faux Whites pencil in the shade Lavender, Lavender Blush. This is a very pinkish shade. It's a little more cool tone than their other pink shades, but a little more purple leaning, but it really looks like a white in the waterline. So it doesn't matter that much, but this is just going to add the hint of a slight lavender shade in the waterline, while also being white and light enough to open up the eye and balance out the smokiness of the look we have so far. And I like to do this before I put on my face makeup because the way I do it, I pull down the skin a little bit, not dragging, just enough so that I don't have to rub this pencil against my eyeball, which is painful, and especially with contact lenses, I just don't want those things coming into contact with each other. So now we have that in there. I'm going to do my face makeup and then I'll be back to finish off the eye look. So almost everything's done. It's time to move on to finishing up this eye look. So what I want to do is I want to take this packing brush again that is part of the Eco Tools double-ended eyeshadow brush sets, and I take the shade Mocha under the lower lash line. I think we have enough color going on with the greens on the lid, and this is a nice warm brown, a little warmer than Cedar, but not too warm for the overall look, and I think it's going to really complement the green eyeshadows nicely. So I'm just gotten it right on the very edge here. I'm just going to gently run that under there. Why is it always that my nose itches right after I do my entire face? It's because you're allergic to foundation. I don't think so, Jan. Just repeat that on the other side here. Okay, nice, it's very subtle. Then I'm going to take this pencil brush here, and we're going to do the inner corner. I think I'm just going to go in with the foam shade. No, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do Pink Peony. It's really just a white shade, but it's just a little bit slightly blushed, and I think it's the subtle pink look that's going to really bring out Flamingo. Just going to pop that in there. If you can't tell that it's pink on camera, don't worry, I can't tell that it's pink in person. But you can tell in the pan. And my hope is that subliminally it will work well with the rest of the look, even though it just looks white. There we go. A little subtle for me. I like a very popping inner corner, so I'm just going to go over it again. Nice. Okay, so that is the eyeshadow look. I'm going to not stop the video here. I want to show my liner and eyelashes practice as well for this eyeshadow look. I'm not going to wear falsies, but I'm going to do things a little differently than you might be used to seeing. I'm going to use a brown liquid liner. This is the Revlon Mahogany Flame. A little bit of shimmer to it, but it's one of the only brown liquid liners that's actually brown. And I'm not feeling a wing. A lot of times when I do looks with this palette, I want to keep it really subtle, so I'm just going to drag this over the lash line. Unfortunately, the brush on this is not the world's greatest, so it isn't always a super great application experience, but gets the job done. And then for mascara, what I like to do is, a lot of people have stopped doing this, but I like to curl my eyelashes. If you want to really curl them, you have trouble with it, you can warm these up with a blow dryer a little bit before you start the curling. Then I'm going to take this L'Oreal Voluminous Mascara Primer. It's like a white primer. I just like to put it on the very tips of my eyelashes. Because if you put it all across the lashes, it makes them look very thick and chunky, but I'm not going for added length here, which is what most people want. Oh my gosh, that poor cat. Better hurry up. Then for the actual mascara, I'm going to use the Colourpop Volumizing Mascara in the shade Brownie Points. This is one of those products that got pretty bad reviews, but I really just felt like I needed to try it, and I love it. I haven't had any of the problems that the reviews were complaining about, dryness, flakiness, you know, smudging, none of that, and it's one of the only true brown mascaras I've ever been able to find. The only one, actually, at the drugstore. I'm sorry, but I'm not paying $25 for a mascara. It's just not gonna happen. So we're going with the lower lash here, just gently, slowly. I've already done my foundation first, and I don't want to get that on my foundation. But the other problem, if you do your mascara first and then do the foundation, you can get foundation all over your mascara lashes, and then you have to redo it. So just have to be careful either way, and I find this is easier for me. I'm just going to dip in there and go across the upper lashes. Good case of mascara mouth going here. Look like a fish. Make sure to get the ends right here to really get the length. I'm not really into the clumpy lashes look. Some people are, no hate, but I want them long and thin. So I don't know if you could see any of that, but we have a nice, just kind of a brown framing around the eyes. So we've got, with our eyeliner, we've used 2 types of eyeliner, the light one and the brown one. So we're just framing the eye in kind of a soft, smoky way with the eyeshadow. Then we're opening up the eye below, and then we've used mascara to create kind of a beautiful like faux lash look, but also we're keeping it very soft in terms of color instead of using a black or something. So I'm just going to finish off the last few finishing touches to this look, and then we'll be done. So this is the completed look. I did opt for a very boring lip gloss because when it comes to this Lorac Pro Palette 4, I find that even the more colorful looks like this one tend to just sort of have a nuance and an elevation about them that most of my colorful lip products bring down. Even I was trying for maybe a classic red to go with this, but it's just such a standard and bright and assertive color that when combined with sort of the hazy, ethereal look that you create with a palette like this, it just kind of doesn't really match up well. So usually when I do an eye look with this palette, I will go with a more neutral, boring lip and aim more for texture rather than color. With other colorful eyeshadow palettes, it's fine. You can add a very bold lip with it as well, but with this one, it's just really hard to find a shade that is both colorful and also not going to destroy kind of the hazy, almost subtle look that we've created with this palette. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, stay tuned for more Lorac Pro Palette 4 videos. I'm going to try to do various tutorials with my favorite palettes on this channel so that you guys can use palettes you already have and, you know, get inspiration for looks you can do with stuff you already have. So thank you and goodbye.